Hello everyone. In this video I am going to read the third chapter from this book, The Concise Yoga Vasistha by Swami Venkateshanand. In the first two chapters we explored Ram's dispassion with the world, and it was followed by Vasistha discourse on the importance of self-effort in the spiritual path and the behavior expected of a seeker. Today we'll dive into the fascinating idea of creation. Vasistha tells Ram about how creation came into being. And it is very different from Abrahamic's religious view of creation, the 7-day theory that they have. It's much deeper philosophically and even makes us question the idea of dream and reality. So let's dive in. So Vasistha says, I shall now declare to you the creation and its secret. For it is only as long as one invests the perceived object with reality that bondage lasts. Once that notion goes, with it goes bondage. Here in this creation, only that which is created grows, decay, and then goes either to heaven or to hell, and it gets liberated. Then he starts with how the universe came into being. During the cosmic dissolution, the entire objective creation is resolved into the infinite being, which is variously designated as Atma, Brahman, truth, etc. So Brahman or Brahm, which is very different from the Brahmin or Brahmad caste. Brahm is the universal consciousness. The same infinite self conceives within itself the duality of oneself and the other. So this infinite consciousness, which is the only thing existing in the world, which is non-material, first within it comes the idea of duality. It conceives within itself the idea of duality. Then mind arises, as a wave arises when the surface of the calm ocean is disturbed. So he gives a beautiful analogy, like how the waves of an ocean are there. So same is consciousness. Waves are nothing but the water, right? So when there are waves, vibrations in that infinite consciousness, then mind arises. But please bear in mind that just as a bracelet of gold is but gold, and though gold exists without being a bracelet does not exist without gold or other metal. The qualities and the nature of the created and the potentiality of creation are inherent in the creator. Even as a mirage appears to be very real river of water, this creation appears to be entirely real. So he says that creation is just like a mirage or waves in a calm ocean. They appear to be real, but they are not. As long as one clings to the notion of the reality of you and I, there is no liberation. Not by merely and verbally denying such a notion of existence is it obliterated. On the contrary, such denial itself becomes a further distraction. So very important point to note here, that merely mentally and verbally denying this idea of duality, these notions of the self and the other, will not bring liberation or true realization. It has to be experienced. Just having them as a thought is not going to truly bring enlightenment. Rather, it becomes a further distraction, because then you will not strive towards knowing and realizing. You'll just take it as a belief and go on live your life without further pursuit and effort in self-realization. So I met a friend once, and he very much mentally denied this idea of I and the other, and he said, I don't regard myself as an individual, okay, or individual identity. I don't believe in that. I believe in the universality of thing. But then his behaviors did not reflect that. Because once you have truly let go the idea of self and individuality, then it is also reflected in the behavior of that person. They will be infinitely compassionate towards everything, every living being. They will have this infinite compassion towards them, because they will see them as their own. You will not go around the world angry. So that's why there is an importance in realizing these aspects, subtle aspects of life, rather than mentally taking them as a belief and believing in them. In the creator, there is no memory of the past, since he had no previous karma. He does not even have a physical body. The unborn is of spiritual substance. He was not created, but he is the creator of all beings. A throbbing arose in the creator, whose thoughts had spread out as the universe. So the universe was created out of thoughts of the creator. This throb brought into being the subtle body of all beings. Made only of thought, all these beings only appear to be. Similarly, even the creator, the holy man of the story, though he has no body, appears to have one. The creator is also of dual nature, consciousness and thought. Consciousness is pure, thought is subject to confusion. The creator is spiritual, his creation too is in reality spiritual in essence. This creation is causeless. Hence, it is essentially spiritual even as the supreme being, Brahma, is. The materiality of the creation is like castle in the air, an illusionary projection of one's mind, imaginary. So, one important point to note here is that he says that there is no purpose to the creation, and it's not because of a cause that the world exists. And because there's no purpose, it's causeless. It's the real essence of this universe is spiritual, and all the materiality of the world is nothing but projection of one's mind. They are imaginary. With this, the second day also ended, and the discourse continues into the next day. Even an empty, inert nothingness is known as space. Mind is empty nothingness. Whether the mind is real or unreal, it is that which is apprehended in objects of perception. Experience alone is the mind. It is none other than the perceived. So he mentions that experience alone is mind, and the mind is made up of all those. The entire universe is forever the same as the consciousness that dwells in every atom, even as an ornament is not different from gold. Just like an ornament potentially exists in gold, the objects exist in the subject. When this notion of the object is firmly rejected and removed from the subject, then consciousness alone exists. When this is realized, evils like attraction and repulsion, love and hate cease in one's heart, as do false notions of the world, you, I, etc. Even the tendency to objectify cease. This is freedom. So the realization of consciousness ceases all tendency to objectify, which indeed is unity, right? Unity is nothing but when there is no objectivity. There is nothing like you and I, this or the other. So realization of the consciousness brings an end to the objectivity itself. Things like attraction and repulsion, love and hate. So after this, Ram asks a range of questions to Vasistha. Like he says, what is the source of mind and how does it arise? Where does this Lord dwell and how can I reach him? And he asks Vasistha to describe the Lord, the Supreme Brahma that he is talking about. Vasistha says, O Ram, the Supreme Self cannot be realized by means other than wisdom, not indeed by exerting oneself in religious practices. Austerity or penance, charity and the observance of religious vows do not lead to the realization of the Lord. Only the company of holy men and the study of true scriptures are helpful. Austerity or penance is self-inflicted pain. Of what value is charity performed with wealth earned by deceiving others? Religious observances add to one's vanity. There is only one remedy for ignorance of the Lord: the firm and decisive renunciation of cravings for sense pleasure. So this theme basically indicates that the book was a later text written much after Vedas, because Vedas place a lot of importance on observation of religious rituals, sacrifices, yajna, right? Later, during the time of Upanishads, we try to move away from that, and when Buddhism comes up, by that time there is heavy criticism to austerity, the idea of austerity, penance, strict observation of religious rituals. So here we see Vasistha strongly criticizing the idea of religious observance for gaining enlightenment, and he places a lot of importance on self-inquiry and the four pillars, whatever he mentioned earlier. Let me know what you think of this particular aspect. Do you agree with Vasistha and his criticism on religious rituals and how austerity, penance, charity and observation of religious rituals will not lead to the realization of the Lord? Let me know your thoughts on this particular aspect. So Vasistha then talks about the role of scriptures. He says that of all scriptures, Maharamayanam is best. I'm not sure that this is actually referring to Valmiki's Ramayana. What is found here is found elsewhere. What is not found here is not found anywhere else. However, if one does not wish to study this, one is welcome to study any other scripture. There is no objection to this. So this is very important aspect of our religion again, because even Vasistha clearly acknowledges that one is free to refer to other scriptures. So this is not a very monolithic culture or religion that believes in just one text for liberation. He clearly mentions there is no objection to this. You can find your own way. You can read any true religion that leads you to liberation. Ram next asks Vasistha about Jivan Mukta and Videha Mukta. So Jivan Mukta is a person who is liberated while living, and Videha Mukta are liberated ones who have no body. So Vasistha tells, he who while living an apparently normal life experiences the whole world as an emptiness is a Jivan Mukta. He is awake but enjoys the calmness of deep sleep. He is unaffected in the least by pleasure and pain, both. He is awake in deep sleep, but he is never awake to this world. He appears to be subjects of likes, dislikes, and fear, but in fact, he is free as a space. He is free from egotism and volition. And his intelligence is unattached, whether in action or inaction. None is afraid of him. He is afraid of none. He becomes a Videha Mukta when in due time the body is dropped. The Videha Mukta is, yet is not, is neither I nor the other. He is the sun that shines, Vishnu that protects all, Rudra that destroys all, Brahma that creates. He is space, the earth, water, and fire. So, he's describing Videha Mukta in a very poetic way here. And now the narration shifts to the central theme of this chapter on how the creation came into being. So Vasistha says, Ram, I shall narrate to you how this creation appears to have emerged from the one pure undivided cosmic being, even as dreams appear in the consciousness of the sleeping person. So analogy of how, just like our dreams appear, this world has also came into existence because of the dream of the creator. This universe is in fact the eternal, effulgent, infinite consciousness which generates within itself the knowable, with an idea concerning its form and with an inquiry concerning itself. Thus is space brought into being. So first comes space. When after a considerable time the consciousness of creation becomes strong in the infinite being, the future Jiva, living cosmic soul, also known as Hiranyagarbha, arises within it. So the idea of Hiranyagarbha is called the golden embryo, and in one of the Vedas, the theory of origin of universe is also called the Hiranyagarbha theory. They say that there was a golden embryo at the start of the universe, and from it the whole universe emerges. Very much similar to the Big Bang theory, that there was one infinitely compressed object at the beginning of the universe which explodes and from which the universe comes into existence. So very much similar to that. In space, the faculty of sound manifests itself. So after space and Hiranyagarbha comes sound. I believe he mean the sound Om, that is considered to be the sound of the universe, or the primal vibration from which all creations emerge. After sound, then comes into being egotism. So this idea of I, identity, egotism, it comes after the sound, which is vital for the creation of the universe. And at the same time, the factor known as time. So wonderful, different stages he has explained. From when the infinite consciousness generates within itself the knowable, the idea of, and an idea concerning its form, with an inquiry concerning itself. So with that comes space. After space comes Hiranyagarbha, the living cosmic soul. Then comes sound, Om, the primal vibration. And after that comes egotism, and with egotism also comes time. By the similar exercise of the creative thought, air is created, and consciousness which is surrounded by all this is called the Jiva, which gives rise to all the different elements in the world. There are 14 planes of existence, each with its own type of inhabitants, and all these are the manifestations of the creative thoughts of consciousness. So amazing similarities between the theory given here in this book, which is literally more than 1,000 years old. Before Industrial Revolution, before the Western age of enlightenment, much before that, and much before this marvelous idea of multiverse, and much before, thousands of years before the idea of Big Bang, this book gives an idea of how universe comes into being, which very much resonates with what we know today. So it says there are 14 planes of existence, much like the multiverse. So it says that there are 14 planes of existence, with its own types of inhabitants. All these fundamental elements continue to act on one another as experiencer and experience. And then the entire creation came into being like ripples on the surface of the ocean. So I'm amazed by the imagination. I don't know that whether it is imagined or perceived in some way, or a knowledge passed on, but amazed by the very idea, how deep it is philosophically, and how it questions the subtler aspects that we take for granted, like origin of time, origin of the universe, and it says there are multiple, that everything repeats itself. There is cosmic dissolution from which the cosmos again emerges. So it's a cycle. Then Vasistha describes Jiva in detail. Ram, I shall now tell you how the Jiva or Jeev is living soul. So we call Jivatma or Jeev. Jeev is the subtle living soul that lives in the body. Vasistha says, when the Jiva thought, I am atomic in nature and stature, and so it became atomic in nature. And then when the Jiva wished to see, eyes were formed in the gross body. So all the senses developed out of the wish of the Jiva. And then he ends with the world exists because consciousness is, and the world is the body of consciousness. There is no division, no difference, no distinction. Hence the universe can be said to be both real and unreal. Real because of the reality of consciousness, which is its own reality, and unreal because the universe does not exist as universe independent of consciousness. But because of the unreality of the universe, it cannot be said that its own cause, namely consciousness, is also unreal. At this stage, the third evening set in and the assembly dispersed. So after this, in this chapter, there are wonderful stories. Through these stories, Vasistha tries to tell Rama that how, just like how we dream and our dream becomes a reality, this world itself, which we perceive as real, is another person's dream or dream of the creator, and that the time is relative. Just like our dreams, just one night of dream, a few hours of dream, it looks, while we are in it, it appears that the whole lifetime has passed. So after the story of Leela, it's a rather big story, we have the story of Karkati, the story of Ahalya, a different story from what is there in Ramayana. Story of non-existent princess, the story of great forest, the story of Lavana. In the end of all these stories of Vasistha tells Ram, all the unhappiness you see in the world belongs to the body. When the mental conditioning is overcome and the mind is made perfectly tranquil, the illusion that deludes the ignorant comes to an end. It is only as long as this illusion, Maya, is not clearly understood that it generates this great delusion. So with this, the chapter ends. The chapter on creation ends. It's rather a huge chapter. And then the discourse moves into chapter 4, that is on existence. So we'll see this chapter later on, what on existence is all about. Thanks a lot for your time, and please let me know what you think of this particular chapter, the things that we discussed. It was not possible for me to go through all the stories, but of what we could read and discuss, want to know your thoughts on those aspects. Okay, thanks a lot for watching, for your time, patience, and we'll see you next time. Have a good day. Bye bye.